What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to talk about the EOS R and some of the features that I love about it. It is mid-2020 and maybe you're thinking about getting a new camera or some new cameras are about to be released. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the EOS R and what it's done for me. It's such a powerful camera in a compact size. And some of you guys might be thinking, should I be getting the EOS R in 2020 or should I wait for something else? And I do want to talk about the R5 at the end of this video. I must say that the few months that I've had this camera has been a workhorse for me. I do have other cameras with me, as you can see here on each side of me, and I will be talking a little bit about them, but I want to go through some of the features that I love about the EOS R. So let's list my top 3 features of this camera. The first feature is the electronic viewfinder. Yes, it is electronic, which basically means WYSIWYG. Now, for some of you millennials, you might not know what that actually means. It stands for what you see is what you get. And that's what you get through the electronic viewfinder. The light that you see, whatever you see through the actual viewfinder is your exposure. It doesn't sound much, but the traditional optical viewfinder wouldn't give you what your end result would look like. It wouldn't show or represent the final image. With the electronic viewfinder, you actually see what the image looks like. There is one little drawback that I've found when we shoot with off-camera flashes and photography. The thing is though, there is a slight lag and a black frame between the time that you hit the shutter button and when you actually see the image. Now I am comparing it to the 1DX Mark II, which when you actually take the shot, it instantaneously takes the photo and the image. So I would say this only affects you when you take multiple photos really quickly, one after another. If you're just taking one photo, I think it's okay. But if you're taking quick photos consecutively, just be aware of that. But having said that, the electronic viewfinder is a great feature. Number 2 on the list is this little guy right here, which is the control ring mount adapter. Not only does it help you mount EF lenses to this camera, but it does have the control ring. This ring makes it quick and fast to change any settings or parameters that you like. For me, I use this to control my ISO. I use it to control my ISO so that I can shoot kind of pretty much on the fly and change my settings pretty quick. When you hold your camera in this position, your hands are already kind of where the ring is, so changing your ISO is actually pretty fast. Then you have the other wheels that you can actually change and move when you're taking the photo. So one great thing about that control ring is when you actually put it on your gimbal is that you're able to control your ISO, well for me the ISO, in this position, which basically means that you don't need to fiddle around with the buttons on the back of your camera and then adjust your ISO. You don't want to be pushing or touching your camera like this when it's actually sitting on the gimbal. So when it sits like this, you're able to adjust whatever settings. For me, again, it's the ISO to make sure that the exposure is on point. So that's the control ring mount adapter, feature number 2. Feature number 3, I must say, is one of my favorite ones, and it is the face tracking. When you put your settings into autofocus mode, I would encourage you guys, if you are shooting a talent or a person in your shot, turn face tracking on. For me personally, and also some of the shoots that we've done, when you turn on face tracking for a particular talent, it saved my life many, many times. Especially when you're a one-man band or a single shooter, face track really helps you to concentrate more on like your composition, making sure that your exposure is there and getting the angles that you're looking for. You're not really trying to fiddle around with your exposure and pulling focus, but you're allowing the camera and the technology in the camera to track the face or the movement of a person in your frame. Again, one of the great things about the face track autofocus is when you are on a gimbal. Maybe I should just leave this thing here. But when you put it on the gimbal, what happens is you don't have to think about your focus. When you turn on autofocus with the face tracking, you can then concentrate on your movements, you can focus on your composition and your framing and not really think about your focusing. There are a few weaknesses as well in the autofocus, I must say, especially when your talent or a face is really small in your framing and composition. The other thing as well is If your talent and their face goes out of the frame, sometimes the autofocus doesn't know what to focus on. But having said that, the autofocus for face tracking is really, really great. Here is an extra tip whilst we're talking about face tracking autofocus. What you might find is that your electronic level has disappeared. You hit info and you toggle through all the different displays, but your electronic leveler doesn't show. The reason why is because Face Track Autofocus doesn't allow you to turn on your electronic level. All you need to do is choose a different focus and you're able to see your electronic level. Once you're happy with your electronic level and you set that all up, go back to your Face Track Autofocus and Bob's your uncle. Here's one more feature just because I think it's a big thing, and actually it's a small thing because this small EOS R is what helps me bring it around a little bit more often. When I compare it to something like my 1DX Mark II, I will put it side by side, it is very different. Sometimes you just want to travel light, and carrying something like this isn't really light. Something like this though, you can kind of chuck around, you can hold for hours on end, and it's really enjoyable to use. Let me give you an example, because the 1DX Mark II is kind of like that muscly friend that you've got that always likes to flex. You know, it's big, it's bulky, it's chunky, it is heavy. It's a bit of a workout at times. But the EOS R is that slim, cool, chilled out kind of friend. He doesn't need to flex because he knows he's cool. That's the vibe that I get from the EOS R. You can carry it around pretty much all day. That's why I think that is an extra feature. So there are just some of the features that I like about the EOS R, and if you are thinking about getting it maybe in 2020, go for it. It is a great camera. It has all the features and the functions I think that you need to shoot what you want to shoot. Just before I end, whilst we're talking about the EOS R, the EOS R5 is coming out. Just a side note, when I filmed this video, the R5 wasn't released and it is now released, but my thoughts still stand, so enjoy the rest of the video. Now, if you do check out their website, they have officially released some of their specs. For example, you can record at 8K RAW, no crop. That is incredible. You can shoot at 422 10-bit Canon log at H.265 and also 422 10-bit HDR PQ at H.265 as well. If you do want to slow things down, you can shoot at 4K at 120 frames per second. One cool thing as well, I did talk about face tracking. This particular camera will have head and eye detection. They do claim that it won't only be for human heads, but it'll also be for cats, dogs, and animals alike. And the first of its kind for Canon will be the inbuilt body IS. Image stabilization inside the camera, that will be amazing. It has a 5-axis camera image stabilization for both RF and EF Canon lenses. The other thing that I think is cool is the fact that the R5 is called the R5 because it takes some of its design cues from the 5 series cameras. For some of you guys, you've shot on the 5D series, for example, the 5D, the 5D Mark II, the Mark III, and the Mark IV. The EOS R5 is paying homage to all those 5 series cameras. I've got a 5D Mark III kind of just lying around, but the layout of this particular camera is very similar to the R5. If you check out this image on their website, it actually shows the design and the layout of the back of the R5. And as you can kind of see, it has that same wheel. They brought back the joystick, which I think is great, much better than that slidey arrow thing on the EOS R. And also the top right 3 buttons, they brought back these 3 buttons, which look pretty much identical on the R5. And to me, this kind of feels like home. I'm really used to that autofocus back button there, then setting your exposure, and then also setting your focus points. You won't have to relearn the layout or a new positioning of where your thumb and your fingers go, but it's something that you're already used to. So to me, paying homage to the 5 series is a great move. Thank you, Canon. So I know that some of you guys might be thinking, should I just wait for the R5? It does shoot in 8K RAW, no cropping whatsoever. I guess the question really to ask yourself is if the EOS R is enough. If you're not gonna shoot 8K, or maybe you don't have projects that require you to shoot 8K, I must say the EOS R has been a workhorse for me. For us here at the studio, whether we shoot at 4K, whether we shoot at full HD 1080p, this has been amazing alongside with some of our other cameras. If say you do need that 8K, or what you're thinking about is maybe shooting 8K, then you're able to crop for say a 4K output, then maybe you might just wanna wait. Plus you might wanna wait and see how much the R5 is going to cost. With all that in mind, I hope that all my top 3+1 features have given you a better idea or understanding as to what this thing is actually capable of. I'd also love to hear your thoughts about the EOS R. Maybe you've used it, maybe you haven't, maybe you're thinking about it. Go ahead and just comment down below. I think that's about it from me. I hope you guys have either learned something or found it interesting. And if you have, go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. From the gimbal part? What did I say?